こんにちは、ハリケーンフットボールです。イングランド2部であるチャンピオンシップの第10節で、リーズユナイテッドはシェフィールドユナイテッドとの上位対決を制し、2対0で勝利しました。田中碧はロスウェルとのダブルボランチでフル出場しました。日本代表のオーストラリア戦から中2日で臨んだのは信じられないくらいですが、田中碧とロスウェルのプレーに、リーズファンが大興奮しています。実際どのような熱量で話しているのか、皆さん楽しんでください。それではチェックしてみましょう。
Oh, and the Sheffield United fans are just clapping their fans. They've come all the way to West Yorkshire to see their team not have a shot on target, people. Handface, post-match interview. Yeah, well, them Muppets from Leeds, I think they've won it already, don't they? Think they've won it already? Well, long way to go. Them Muppet from Leeds did it before, didn't they? Get excited. We've seen last season with Leeds. Doesn't happen, does it? So, listen. It's a brilliant win. And listen, tonight was much more than just the football game, as you guys know we did. It was a really emotional night. For me, when it comes to the YouTube scene with Johnny Gascoigne passing away, a lifelong Sheffield United fan, a lifelong, one of my lifelong inspirations, and what a guy he was. And listen, Johnny's funeral tomorrow. If some of you guys want to get down there, you can do. I donated a little bit earlier on. His GoFundMe link's on my Twitter, but obviously George Baldock as well. It was an emotional night. And maybe that went the wrong way for Sheffield United. But getting into the game, it has to be said, everybody, the first 10 minutes, I have to be brutally honest with you all. I'm not just going to go back on what I was saying on the watch-along. I thought they were the better team. They were recovering the ball higher. They were causing us a few problems in terms of that press. Leeds really weren't able to get out. And then you started to see after that 10, 15-minute spell, you started seeing Ramazani on that turn away from the fullback. He knew the fullback was coming. He'd turn. And then they were alleviating the press. Nonto doing the exact same thing. I should say bypassing the press. Nonto doing the same thing. Started getting on the ball. Coming deep to getting the ball. But he was spinning them constantly. And you got Arblaster getting spun. Vinny Souza getting spun, who I thought was probably their best player tonight, if I'm honest with you. Now, before we get into just the stats, which you guys can see on screen, I'm just going to do this for a second because I have to. I think we have to, as a fan base, just absolutely glaze that midfield. We have to glaze that midfield. I don't want to go into. I'm going to go into the game chronologically, but Tanaka and Rothwell. Tanaka and Rothwell. Rothwell and Tanaka. Tan Roth. Roth Tan. Tanwell. Rothaka. Listen, this combination is one of my favourite things. I love, you guys have probably said, oh, Connie, you're always moaning. And I do moan a lot about certain midfielders. No, I'm not talking about Gruev there, but I'm talking about me in the past 10 years because I've always moaned about midfielders. It's my gripe, midfielders. These two are exceptionally good together. And you might think maybe isolated previously or, when they've been with different partners or whatever at different clubs, it's not quite worked. But the balance these two have, they're like telepathic. One comes deep, the other goes, the other retrieves the ball between the centre-backs. The other will make an unbelievable angle for the other one, whether it's further forward or whether or not it's in just a pocket on the right-hand side or the left-hand side. Tenacious, aggressive, willing to put the bodies on the line. And we've had Norwich now, we've had Sunderland, and we've had Sheffield United with a midfield pairing who aren't the defensive midfielders of which Daniel Farke started the season with. And do we look better with those two in the middle? Because I saw us against Sunderland, aside from Joe Bellingham, with maybe a couple of chances. And I keep talking about the balance between a defensive player and an attacking player. But I'm literally looking at this develop between those two and I'm thinking, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. We've not lost the game against three of the best sides in the division, in my opinion, from what I've seen so far in Norwich, in Sunderland, and against Sheffield United. And for me, Tanaka, even in the Norwich game, was really good. No, Rothwell came on. They were brilliant against Sunderland, dominated that midfield of Chris Rigg, Joe Bellingham. And tonight, Arblaster and Vinny Souza. I thought Vinny Souza was probably their best player. I have to say this. But Callum O'Hare, Gus Harmer, where were they? Where were they? Just in that pocket in front of the behind the striker? They were nowhere to be seen. Those two were absolutely magnificent telepathic, as I mentioned, combative, excellent on the ball. What do we see, everybody? Switches. Switches, baby. So that makes me think that maybe that isn't a Daniel Farke. Maybe that isn't a Daniel Farke instruction. Maybe that's just a player thing. Playing between the 5 to 7 yards. I understand that it's a control element, but I'm seeing Tanaka and I'm seeing Rothwell get the ball out the feet and spray the ball. I'm thinking, have I gone back to 2018 with Calvin Phillips here, but there's two of them? It's unbelievable. And listen, when I see a performance oozing class like that, I have to talk about it. I get giddy about it. I get excited because I'm a fan. As much as I talk about Leeds like I am doing, and some of you think I'm a pundit, which I'm not. I'm just a fan. I have to glaze over those two in the midfield. They were superb, and they have been superb. And I am more than comfortable with both of them in that midfield. They've done it against three of the best sides, in my opinion, in the division. I think Norwich are going to be up there. I think Sunderland are going to be up there, and Sheffield United, obviously. They've done it against them. The balance, they never lose the ball. Do you ever feel in danger? That's my question to all you Leeds fans when those two are on the ball, when they're under pressure. Do you ever think they're going to lose the ball? That is the key component of a quality central midfielder, and that's what those two both are. I was so happy with that, and the only worry for me is that one of them maybe breaks down at some point, you know. But Tanaka, oh my, I'm gushing over it. The balance, back foot, defensive, mixing up play, the long balls, the short balls, going to get the ball from every single throw-in, even when he's under pressure, left foot, right foot, volley back to the throw-in taker. Picking the ball up deep under pressure, doesn't care. And Rothwell, did you see that edge to him tonight? Flying into tackles, winning 3 tackles out of 3 in that second half. Fantastically well. And I have to say, I'm not getting overexcited here. I'm not sort of like, you are kind of up when you're a fan, and down when you're down. That's football. That's Leeds United. It infects us all. But those two in that midfield have shown us all, you've just got to give them a chance sometimes. You've got to give them a chance. I have to say, I thought those two were just outstanding. And I can see what you said there, Danny, in terms of AO, mate. And we'll be doing, we're doing stuff on that midfield going forward. But even from a defensive perspective, I think Joe Bellingham would have got those chances against us with Gruev and Ampadu in there. I don't think there'd have been that much difference. I get there's a yin and the yang. I do understand that. But as I'm seeing these two develop like sort of budding flowers, I'm seeing the fact that they've got that defensive solidarity to their game as well. They just do it in a different way. It's not all about just rushing into tackles. And I'm not saying that's what Gruev and Ampadu just are, but they have that in the game. It's not about enforcing as such. They just do it in a way where teams just can't get near them. And they win the second balls. That's what I've noticed. They win second balls all the time. All the time, Tanaka and Rothwell win second balls. And you almost don't need to be just defensively combative and going into those tackles all the time, albeit that's what they were doing at points tonight. If you just know where the ball's going to drop, if you've just got that perception, that perceptive way of playing football in the middle, I just had to speak about them. They were outrageous. And it was a beautiful midfield performance. And as I mentioned, you guys all know I glaze on about midfielders when they're brilliant because I used to play there myself and I know how difficult it is. It is the brain of the football pitch. It's the engine. It's the system. Everything works from the midfield. You lose the midfield, you lose the game. For me, we've won 3 midfield battles in the last 3 games against 3 of the best teams in the division. I thought they were just excellent. I have to say that. And I wanted to get that out there. And I've been glazing for 8 minutes. Let's go on to some other players.
次は解説です。少し興奮しているのもあるでしょうし、いろんな表現で感情を表現したいというのもあると思いますし、実際に頻繁に聞くような表現でなくても、ネイティブが使いそうな表現も多く使われていると思います。表現豊かな表情や話し方や、使っているボキャブラリーも勉強できると思いますので、早速解説をチェックしてみましょ
う。The Muppet from Leeds did it before, didn't they?
マペットという言葉は、セサミストリートのような人形劇のキャラクターであるマペットから来ていますが、糸で吊らされて操作される操り人形であるマリオネットと、手や棒などで操作される操り人形であるパペットを組み合わされた造語です。現代のイギリスのスラングでは、ムペットは、頭が悪い人や間抜けといった意味で軽く相手を馬鹿にする表現として使われますが、深刻な侮辱ではなく、友人同士で使われる軽い皮肉やからかいとしてのニュアンスが強いです。
The Muppet from Leeds did it before, didn't they? The Muppet from Leeds did it before, didn't they? That went the wrong way for Sheffield United.
Go the wrong way は文字通りには間違った方向に進むという意味ですが、比喩的に使われることが多く、物事が悪い方向に進む。予想外に悪い結果になるという意味になります。 何かが計画通りにいかず、期待とは反対の結果になった時に使われますし、逆風だった。うまくいかなかったというニュアンスでも使われます。
That went the wrong way for Sheffield United. That went the wrong way for Sheffield United when it turned, and then they were alleviating the press. When it turned, and then they were alleviating the press. When it turned, and then they were alleviating the press. We have to glaze that midfield.
グレーズはガラスのように表面を滑らかにしたり光沢を出すという意味です。ここでは比喩的に、あるいはスラングのように使われていると思いますが、光沢を出すように輝かせる、つまり、注目する、話題として取り上げる、称賛する、というニュアンスで使われていると思います。
We have to glaze that midfield. We have to glaze that midfield. I'm going to go into the game chronologically. I'm going to go into the game chronologically. I'm going to go into the game chronologically. But it's my gripe, midfielders.
掴むや握るという意味のグリップと同じ語源を持つグライプですが、掴むことによって引き起こされる不快感や苦痛という意味から、不平を言う、愚痴をこぼすという意味になったそうです。
It's my gripe, midfielders. It's my gripe, midfielders. You know, the other retrieves the ball between the centre backs.
リトリーブは取り戻す、回収するという意味の動詞です。失ったものや置き忘れたものを再び手に入れるときや、情報を探し出すときに使われます。文脈によっては、物理的なものの回収やデータの検索、復元を指す場合もあります。
You know, the other retrieves the ball between the centre backs. You know, the other retrieves the ball between the centre backs. As I mentioned, combative. As I've mentioned, combative. As I've mentioned, combative. And listen, when I see a performance oozing class like that.
ここでのウージングクラスは、品格や優雅さが滲み出る、溢れ出るというニュアンスです。つまり、ある選手やチームのパフォーマンスが、上品で素晴らしく、自然にその実力や優雅さが感じられる様子を強調しています。
And listen, when I see a performance oozing class like that, and listen, when I see a performance oozing class like that, I get giddy about it.
ギッティは、めまいがする。フラフラするという意味の形容詞ですが、比喩的に使うと、興奮して浮き足立つ。ウキウキするという意味になります。何かに対して非常にワクワクしたり、嬉しさで落ち着かない感情を表すときに使われます。
Yeah, I get giddy about it. I get giddy about it. I'm gushing over it.
ガシュは、液体が急に大量に流れ出る様子を表します。水や血液などが吹き出す状況です。転じて感情や称賛、興奮などが抑えきれずに溢れ出ることも意味します。誰かや何かについて非常に情熱的に話すときにも使われ、感情が溢れる、興奮して語る、熱く語るといったニュアンスで使われます。
I'm gushing over it. I'm gushing over it. I get there's a yin and the yang.
陰と陽は、陰と陽の中国語が英語読みになったものです。互いに対立しつつも補完し合う二つの要素を指し、宇宙や自然、人生のあらゆる事象におけるバランスを表現しています。つまり、光と影、善と悪、男性と女性など相反するものが共存し、調和することを意味します。
I get there's a yin and the yang. I get there's a yin and the yang. And as I'm seeing these two develop like sort of budding flowers. And as I'm seeing these two develop like sort of budding flowers. And as I'm seeing these two develop like sort of budding flowers. It's not about enforcing as such. It's not about enforcing as such. It's not about enforcing as such.
いかがでしたか？田中碧の素晴らしいプレーに、ロスウェルとのパートナーシップについて。泥酔して惚れ惚れして、文字通り頭がクラクラしているほどでしたね。リーズユナイテッドはこれで3位に上がり、プレミアリーグへの昇格も十分にありそうになってきました。田中碧が素晴らしいプレーを続けていれば、個人昇格も可能性は少なくないと思いますが、チームと共に昇格するのを見れると、 それ以上に嬉しいものはないでしょう。また今後も期待したいと思います。本日もご視聴いただきありがとうございました。またすぐにお会いしましょう。